Day 2 of the saga of chopping down threatening trees. And I came over to this side by the cabin, and there's a bunch of them over here too. So this one was leaning more straight towards that porch area. This one was leaning straight to the cabin right there, in line with that chimney almost. Same thing. That big one there was mostly straight up, but that one was leaning straight towards the cabin. That one was leaning kind of off to the side, like it would have been pointing more towards this lean-to on the side there. And then there was a maple. That stump was leaning. It was mostly straight, but it was slightly leaning that direction towards the cabin also. So I laid those. I was able to get those ones to fall that direction. I basically did it 90 degrees out from the direction they were leaning and got them to pull hard to the right. This little guy here, I angled it to where he twisted, and as he came down and went that direction and fell to the far right, because he was leaning so hard I couldn't cut him back this direction like I did with the other ones. But like that came from that stump, and I did the same thing. I cut it 90 degrees out from the lean, and it teetered this way, and then it broke off, and this jumped over that little that log right there. It actually hit that log, and then that's what popped the bottom end. That hinge ripped the hinge out, and then that big maple right there, he was right on this, and I ended up coming in crooked. This cut here, see, I came in on the bottom first. I did 3 different back cuts on it because I was lopsided. Thank God I got it to go the right direction. And again, I angled all of them to just go this direction, and thank God all of them went where I wanted. Nothing hit the cabin. Nothing hit the house. Everything came back, either back into the woods. These ones were already leaning that direction, but there's going to be a lot of real good firewood, and I'm going to cut some of this into some boards. Like this is a black cherry, and like that little stretch right there, I'll probably cut that and run it through the mill to get a few boards off of that. The rest of it's real twisted and stuff, so I'm not going to get a bunch. I'm not going to waste time messing with it. The bottom of that birch right there, like there's a good straight section right up to about here, so I'll probably cut that section and put that on the mill to get a few boards. Maybe those maple over there, and definitely this maple, the bottom section is nice and straight, pretty good diameter, and it doesn't look like it has any serious kind of rot in the middle, so I should be able to get some nice boards off of that lower section, maybe even that secondary section after the little curve that's still fairly straight. So hopefully I'll get some maple slabs or some maple boards. A couple of birch, a couple of maple, maybe a little bit of black cherry, and quite a bit of pine. Not big pine, and some of it's rotten on the inside and the middle. Some of it was already dying. It was not dead standing yet, but it was like a little zombie. It was pretty much dead, but it was still barely hanging on. So yeah, that's 2 days of cutting, and I've cleared all the big stuff in this area that I want to clear. And the next thing I'm going to do, we did a video Last year with the guy that came by, he had his Bobcat with the mulching, chipping attachment on it. And I think what I'm going to do instead of having him come back is there's this place that rents that, not the exact same thing he had. This is I'm drawing a blank now. I'm gonna not be able to freaking think of what it's called. The thing with the it's got the tracks and it's got the bucket arm on the front, but instead of having a bucket at the end of the arm, it's got that big grinder chipper attachment. And they rent that. The ad that I saw last year said $750 for a day, and it was something like $2,700 for a week. I would be looking at getting it for a week because it's a better deal, but also because there ain't no dang way I'm going to get everything done in one day that I want. So once I start getting into 3 or 4 days, I might as well just get it for a whole week. That's the same way it worked with a lift. If you go back and look at the video when we were building the house, we had to rent a lift to do that roof. The roof itself and the roofing to put up the metal. And we did the same thing with that lift. The daily rate, once you got past 3 days, it was basically the same price to get it for a whole week. Like if you had it for 4 days, you might as well just have it for a whole week. So that's the same thing with this. And so first I'm going to spend a lot of time out here in this section cutting up all these trees, cutting off branches, piling up the small branches that are kind of useless, cutting the stuff that's big enough to use for firewood into 16 to 18 inch sections and getting that stacked away. Some of the pieces that are big enough, straight logs I can use for the sawmill, I'll cut those and carry them over and set them by the sawmill for later. And then once I'm done with all that and I've got a bunch of brush piles all over the place, I'll rent that machine and I'll bring that over here, use it to chip all the branches and brush, and then use it to grind all the stumps down, all the way down to just slightly below ground level. And then even a couple spots back there where I didn't bother cutting these trees, but there's some real little spindly, skinny, barely alive little pines that are really clustered tight. They don't get enough sunlight to really thrive. So I'm going to go back through there, take that machine and just grind those things down from all the way from the top down and just chip them. And that should allow me to clear a little bit of some pathways back there in the woods. And if I can, say a prayer for us that I can, I'm going to try to actually clear the area where I want to put a pond, because not even put a pond. I want to dig the pond back out. The gentleman we bought this place from, or who used to own the place before us, he told us when he bought it back in the 80s that there was a pond back on the property, but he never messed with it. He never maintained it or anything. He didn't try to keep it, open. It was kind of a natural occurrence because we have springs and stuff that pop right up out of the ground back there. And he said over the years it just got mucked in real bad, and now it's pretty much, it looks like it's a swamp, but basically it's because it's just gotten mucked in and overgrown so bad that, everything is just saturated. Where the water springs up out of the ground, it just soaks into the ground, that all the muck and the dirt that's there, and just turns it into a swampy mess. But if I can clear enough to get back to that area, I got a guy who's got a really, really big backhoe who does ponds and stuff. And I'm going to have him come and dig that thing back out, pull all the nasty muck and mess out of it, reinforce around the edges and sides where it needs to be, and then open up there's already, again, there's a little runoff area that attaches from that spot where the pond should be, and it meanders on down and connects back into the brook. And you can clearly see where that is. It's a nice little area that moves right through the woods back and connects back to the brook. But again, it's all mucked in. So I just want to refresh that whole thing back there and open it back up, let sunlight back in there again, get the pond opened up again, get that little runoff stream clear and opened again, and hopefully be able to start, using that space in the backwoods. We've been here almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in July. And we've done a lot as far as getting the house built, getting, gardening every year. We've been doing that. We're upgrading our garden setup this year with the greenhouse. But we've been doing little things along the way on the side. But now that, the house is mostly finished, and as I get more of the big stuff completed, I want to start moving back into the woods more and get more of that opened up and make it usable. That's a big part of why we got this property, is because there's a lot more land back there in the woods. And I don't want to get rid of the woods. I don't want to just go clear cut everything and turn it into a field. I want it to stay wooded, and I want it to still be a wooded, natural, beautiful area with wildlife and everything. But I want to do a little bit of permaculture back there, add some trees and bushes and things that are beneficial for us, but are also beneficial for the wildlife and things in here. So if you don't know anything about permaculture, do a Google search or DuckDuckGo. I use DuckDuckGo. Just see what it's about. It's pretty cool. I like it. I haven't been able to actually implement it yet, but that's what I plan on doing in the backwoods over there, is some permaculture principles, and really just turn that into a sort of a natural little oasis area. Have the pond and different types of fruit trees and berry bushes and just things that'll grow and thrive, hopefully on their own, with very little maintenance and input from us. And that's been my vision since before we even made it here onto the property. And slowly but surely, I'm getting to it as I have time. It's not the highest on our priority list. We're still working on the house, the garden, taking care of the chickens. I got to potentially do something with that coop. Maybe either raise it up off the ground or something, but there's something burrowed underneath that coop right now that I don't like. A lot of little things like that. So it's coming along. Again, spring is here. It definitely has warmed up a lot. You can see all this grass is now exposed, and the yard is so much more open. I am super excited. I'm going to get the greenhouse. It's going to go right over here. Garden will be on this side of it. That's south, so the sun's shining into it real good. But yeah, you can see everything starting to open up this side. The snow is still pretty heavy on this side over here, but it doesn't get as much of the sun all day long, because halfway through the day that tree line blocks that sun from this side over here. So unfortunately, it's going to take longer. And that's another reason I wanted to clear a lot of those trees too. It'll let more light come into the house, warm up the backside over there. That's one of the reasons we wanted to do that south-facing sunroom with all the windows. And then we realized that with all those trees, as many as there were right close by the house, they blocked the sun in the winter time, and we didn't get as much of the benefit that we were hoping. So we'll see how that works out. I think it's going to be a lot better. So, all right, I'm done yapping. I'm going to go inside, get cleaned up, and call it a day. Thanks for watching, and we will check back later. Have a good evening.